So thank you everybody for joining. I appreciate your volunteering to be a member of the board, and welcome. Sorry we have to do this by this means, but we're adaptable as an organization, and we will overcome this. So if I was thinking we could do is just go around the horn and just have everybody kind of introduce themselves and what your role is on the board and that type of thing, just so everybody can kind of put a face to a name or that type of thing. So for those of you who don't know, I'm Dawn Flynn, and I'm the new president of ANCA. I was asked to join this organization when I was actually retiring back in 2017. I was originally the reserve component liaison or consultant, whatever term they wanted to use. They had identified at the time, was Peggy the president back then, or was it Rory? I can't remember. I think it was Rory was the president back then, and to try to encourage more of the reserve component and National Guard, because I've done both, to enhance the membership of them. So I originally came on board to assume those duties, and then, you know, mission creep. So I'm kind of excited to be the president. The only thing was I was not prepared. I ended up being one of the retiree recalls. So I've been on active duty again since May, and I've been extended through April 26th of next year. So I did not anticipate dual hatting. So I apologize for trying to do multiple tasks. So it's been interesting, but I appreciate your support while I go through this. But I am excited to be part of this organization. I think I've been a part of this organization since, I want to say 2004, 2003. I can't remember. Kathy probably knows more than I do. So I'm excited to be here. So thank you. Karen?
Hi, I'm Karen Gaussman. Most of you know me from my time being the editor for The Connection, but right now I am serving as the president-elect. And I also, the other hat I wear is the chairman or the chair of the convention, and we'll be talking about that shortly. And I also coordinate speakers for the Speakers Bureau. So any of you have any questions on any of those topics, I'll be glad to assist. I served on active duty and for 30 years in the Army Nurse Corps, but before that I was enlisted in the reserves. And I just talked to HRC this week about possibly doing retire recall. So we'll see what happens with that. Any questions? Let me know. Who should we pass it to at this point?
Oh, Kathy, do you want to talk again? Just briefly?
Do I want to talk?
Yeah.
Well, you want to talk about, I don't know if I want to talk about, do you need to know anything else about the office or membership? Or...
Just you. We're talking about you.
Oh, who I am. Oh,
Yeah.
I'm the office and I'm membership and I'm finance.
How many years you spent in the nurse corps, yada, yada?
I was in the nurse corps for 20 years and I've been retired for 30 years and 2 months. So I probably retired before you people even joined the nurse corps. I'm an old nurse. I live in Lake Hills, just outside San Antonio. And like I said, I haven't worked since I retired, except doing all this anchor work, of course. It keeps me busy enough. But other than that,
so one of the things that Kathy does, if we get the chance to have meetings in San Antonio again, she is a great liaison with the Army, was at the ARC, the retirement facility. Oh. And she tries to, you want to talk more about what you do with that?
Okay, pretty much if you need things in San Antonio, when we have meetings, I set them up. I set up the hotels and the venues and the Army, the birthday lunch every year, meet with people from the ARC. Like I said, pretty much if people might not know me to see me, but they certainly know my name. I've been part of ANCA, pretty much involved for the last 12 years. And here in San Antonio, I started in the office in 2008. And I don't, other than the fact we got rid of the office, I don't seem to be able to get out of it. So, but like I said, pretty much if you need, I think historically, Nikki and I probably are the people that have the oldest historical knowledge of ANCA right now of anybody on the board. So if you need to know things, I can try to find out or put you in the right direction. Or like I said, if you just need anything at all, just let me know.
Great. So CJ Moore, she's our Army Nurse Corps historian. And just to kind of go over briefly the history of ANCA, we actually had started out as an organization back in 1976 as what they called RANCA, the Retired Army Nurse Corps Association. And it was basically at that time just a bunch of retired Army Nurse Corps officers that had started forming in San Antonio. And then in 2000, they decided to expand the membership to include the active component as well. And at that point in time, the organization dropped RANCA and it became what's today currently known as ANCA. And on the active component side, they actually no longer have an Army Nurse Corps historian. So one of the roles that ANCA fills is covering maintaining the history of the Army Nurse Corps. And so CJ Moore is our historian. She had done that role on the active component side. And that's one of the big contributions that ANCA makes to not only, ANCA, but to the Army Nurse Corps. And ANCA has a strong history with, the Vietnam era vets and with RAIN that, Robin had talked about earlier. So there's more of the history on the website. Nikki, I think you're going to navigate through the website, correct?
Yes.
In your presentation, so I'm not going to go repeat everything that he's going to do. So, so that's just a brief history on ANCA. So one of the things too that we tend to go over is the vision and the strategic plan as well as the marketing plan. And so sometimes we tend to revise it like twice a year when we actually sit down and have our board meetings. And ideally, we should be also updating it throughout the year as best as we can. So my understanding is the past president takes over the role of is it the marketing plan, Nancy? And then the current president takes over the role of or do I have them reversed, Nancy? The president-elect takes over the
strategic planning.
The strategic planning, and then the marketing plan is
well, that's what we started with under Roy.
Mm-hmm. So that's kind of been a work in progress, and then we keep that working document on our website as well. And so you can at your leisure review that as well. Any questions on that? So our big push kind of has just been trying to keep up and push the social media aspect, as well as trying to anticipate how the more junior officers, trying to keep up with what they use for communications and social media, because I guess, Facebook's kind of fallen by the wayside, Instagram. So we're trying to, anticipate what the next platform's going to be to promote ANCA. And over the past year or two, we've kind of worked, with Steve and stuff, trying to come up with the best way to kind of strategically place stuff that, CJ has her historical events or articles that she likes to post and share, and we love, those contributions, but we don't want to overwhelm the members by sending them too much stuff in a month. So again, it's strategically placing events and articles and activities and messages So they're not getting to the point where they want to unsubscribe the emails or, you know, unfollow our Facebook pages and stuff. So it's kind of a fine balance that constantly needs tweaking. So that's kind of why we work together as a group, and one person isn't just in charge of it. And so if, as you're looking at your regions and getting to know your people, Steve really truly doesn't want to be a one-man show. So if you're finding, you know, discovering people that want to help participate in some of those activities with social media and that type of thing. Plus, you know, Nikki's not getting any younger. So, you know, he's been kind of doing all this stuff with the IT side of the house solo. So if there's some people that might be interested in kind of starting a right seat ride with him, that you find in your regions, we would love to have them start, you know, developing the skill set. So that way, if, you know, he's not able to do something for whatever reason, somebody else can step up and help him with that. So just kind of discovering ways to have your region's people be engaged in that type of thing. So I encourage them to do that, because we find that helps with the retention, because a lot of times we're good at recruiting, but we do a lousy job of retention. But if we can keep people engaged, they tend to want to stay in an organization because of their level of engagement. And especially with, you know, the way COVID is kind of keeping us housebound right now, and we can't do our normal luncheons and conventions and that type of thing, that we need to find ways to keep them engaged. So one of the things we talked about is having a kind of a book club. So we're going to have I think in February, we're going to have one of our ANCA members present a book, and we're going to have like a Zoom online chat with the author to discuss her experiences with writing the book and do a question and answer. So we're going to promote that book. Actually, I need to get going on that. Put it out on our social media so people can get the book kind of right before Christmas, give them a chance to read it, and look at that as an alternate means to have people engaged from their living rooms and stuff. So those are some of the things that we are doing as far as, you know, our marketing plan to in these times of COVID. But when you get a chance to just look at that, because there's a lot of stuff on there that I cannot summarize in the brief 5 minutes that we have. Any questions on any of those? And if you can think of anything that you come across, you know, in your daily life or whatever, feel free to email me and say, hey, I came across this. What do you think? You know, can we integrate it in ANCA? Always open to suggestions and that type of thing. Especially, you know, as the younger folks, you know, I'm in my 50s, and I don't know, I can't even keep up with my teenage daughter and what she's doing. So if there's new stuff out there, love to, you know, be made aware of it and stuff so we can perhaps utilize it. Pretty much, is Mary Messerschmidt on? So she's the one that kind of, she's like our stickler when it comes to following the Roberts rules of order and the bylaws and keeping those maintained and that type of thing, and the articles of incorporation. And so we look at those probably annually just to make sure that they're still current and relevant. Last month we actually had to kind of update them with everything that's going on with COVID, just to make sure that they were relevant. So again, just, I think we're actually getting an updated Roberts Rules of Order. I think there's a 12th edition. She said she's going to be sending it up to us. So we need to make sure we, I don't know what changes are going to be in there, because it's actually been a while since there's been an update on that. Any questions on that? All right, and then just the members' duties, as far as your individual roles on your organization, you know, on your board duties and that type of thing. If you have any questions, or if you feel like you should be doing something, or if you're not quite sure, please feel free to call me or email me. Right now, I'm pretty much tied up during the day. So I may have to, get with you in the evenings. And again, I'm doing shift work and 24 hours, 24/7, rotating shifts and stuff. So I apologize if I can't get back to you right away. But again, I'm pretty good at answering emails. So just let me know what's going on and stuff. I think everything's going to end up being virtually for at least, I anticipate, through the summer for now. So we'll have to rely on this format. But if you need to do something individually or with your section or your region, you can use our Zoom login and stuff for if you want to use that for yours. Just let us know so we're not overlapping times and dates and stuff like that. Any questions? Okay. Let's see what's next on the agenda.
Hi, everyone. I'm going to go over a little bit about how we operate as an organization. Let me pull up my slides here. The first thing to remember is that we have voting members, and voting members have full privileges to make motions, discuss issues, and vote. There are currently 9 voting members on the board: the president, vice president, secretary, treasurer, and the 5 regional directors. Committee chairs have limited benefits. They can make motions, discuss issues, but cannot vote. And advisors and consultants also have limited privileges. That's primarily the people listed on the screen here: the reserve component advisor, historian, assistant treasurer, financial reviewer. Only the parliamentarian and any honorary corps chief advisors have no privileges. They just provide information to us as requested. It's important to remember that we're an all-volunteer organization, so we have no paid staff at all. What this means is any ideas and projects that we come up with have to be done by volunteers. So keep that in mind. It makes a big difference. We have great ideas, but if no one wants to step up and take the lead on finding volunteers to execute that plan, then we're up the creek. So keep that in mind, that we're an all-volunteer organization. We do meet in 3 different formats. We can meet by phone, and I listed there the phone account that we have and the codes that are used. We have about 10,000 minutes a year on that phone, so it's available for just telephone conferencing. We do have the president's Zoom account, which anybody can use with these data that are on the screen, but do let the president know when you're planning to use that. But it is a great way if you want to have some face-to-face connection with people in your meeting. And of course, we do in-person meetings. Normally, we do an in-person meeting once a year in October. It is open to all members, so it is our annual meeting. In the even years, we do it in conjunction with our convention, and it's called our general membership meeting. But we can do this also by Zoom, which we had to do this year, but we prefer to do the annual meetings in person. And then usually once a year around April, the executive committee meets in person in San Antonio usually. And that's the president, vice president, immediate past president, secretary, treasurer, and the region director, webmaster, the region director chair, and the webmaster, Nikki. We usually do that in San Antonio at Nikki's building. He has a nice conference room there with a hotel close across the street. Board meeting attendance. It's important to know that unless we have a quorum of 5 voting members at a meeting, whether it's being held by conference call or Zoom, You still have to have at least 5 of the voting members present to vote on anything in the meeting, including the minutes. So please let the president know if you can't attend the meeting, or if you are a voting member, if you can't attend the meeting if you're a voting member, because it gives you a chance. Otherwise, we'd have to look at some options like having motions voted on through electronic means. All the others on the board, the committee chairs and the advisors, etc., please attend the meetings if possible. Your advice is valuable, and if you are presenting, it's important to send any information out ahead of time so people can look at it and formulate some questions they may have about it. If you can't make the meeting and you're on the agenda, please let the president know so that the agenda can be changed. Responsibilities. Those are outlined in the documents on the website. It is important to do an annual report every year. And you just, for the region directors, there's a report format on the website. For the rest of us, we just put it on some letterhead, a shell. We do have the letterhead shells on the ANCA OneDrive, or we can send that to you. There's a 1-page shell and a 2-page shell. So that keeps it easy for Nikki then to upload the reports onto the website when you turn them in. The other thing we initiated last year was a volunteer activity log, or some sort of method of keeping track of the time that you spend on ANCA volunteering. And it's important for volunteer organizations to know about how much volunteer time is donated to the organization. And it also helps when people are trying to think about whether they want to run for one of the offices, to know about how much time you do. So I emailed a volunteer activity log. You can use that one or just keep track of it any way you want. What you'll do is keep that log from October to October for a year, and then report it in your annual report, which is due by the end of September. A little bit about recruitment and retention. I think this is still one of the biggest ANCA challenges that we have. It is a responsibility of all the board members. I do think that the ambassadors may be a key. We started the ambassador program last year, and Robin will be telling you more about the use of ambassadors. It's been slow to roll out, especially in the COVID environment, since we have limited access to our medical treatment platforms and reserve centers because of COVID. But it will be a key, I think, a key strategy for having us maintain a face-to-face or a more personal connection with members. Our access to pool of potential members is kind of limited. We used to be able to meet with all the BOLIC courses and do a kind of a career counseling panel with them, but that's been cut out. They do receive our membership flyers though in the BOLIC course. And if they follow and join the association and mention that they did it because of the BOLIC flyer, then they get a free year. We also used to meet with the career course members, but that has also stopped. Our current active duty and reserve components remain a key demographic for us to try to tap into, and that was one of the reasons why we started the ambassador program. We also find that our key member groups in terms of volunteers are the most recently retired members. They're very active. Most of you are retired, and so they seem to have a little bit more of the time to help us out. But there's things that all of the members of our organization can participate in if we just figure out ways to tap into them. They don't have to come be on the board. They can be on our various committees and task groups. So the challenge also for us is it's hard to find how to target recruiting in print or digital media. there's no one magazine or newspaper that hits all just Army nurses. So what we're doing is we do have a page in the Army Nurse Corps newsletter, so that keeps us front and center every time that newsletter is published. And we're exploring perhaps a Facebook ad targeted at all nurses, and then highlighting that if they've ever or are currently an Army Nurse Corps member, then this is an opportunity for them. So just keep recruitment and retention in mind. Faith Youngahan is our chairperson, and she can appreciate any help that people give her in this, this challenge we have. In terms of relationships with other organizations, we do maintain a relationship with the XO in San Antonio. Currently, it's Colonel Valerie Stacy, and she's got the direct connection to the chief of the Army Nurse Corps. So they primarily help us when we're trying to get out information about our Senior Leader Awards and Military Practice Awards. And then once those awards are, awardees are selected, helping us get the logistics in place to give them the award. The Deputy Corps Chief is Colonel Foote currently, and he has 2 fellows in his office, and they're the ones we communicate with in terms of the Army Nurse Corps newsletter. Also, about once every 2 years or once a cycle, the president tries to meet with Colonel Foote and see what it is that we can do to help the Corps, and perhaps how the Corps can help us. And we did do that last year when we were at the Bagan lecture, and Colonel Foote did help us get access to the Army Nurse Corps newsletter. The other associations with the Air Force Nurses and the Navy Nurse Corps Association, we maintain liaisons with them and talk with their leadership. MOA, the Military Nurses Virtual Chapter, is really grown under Jerry Graham's leadership, and they work on legislative issues that are important to military health care. We also work with Women in Military Service for the America Foundation, Army Women's Foundation, and Optum Serve Federal Health Services have been instrumental in helping us by supporting our convention with donations. And then last year we started a liaison with the Daisy Foundation, and Lori Fritz is our connection with the Daisy Foundation, where we give, we sponsor awards, the Daisy Awards, which are highly recognized across the nation. We sponsor them with the Navy Nurse Corps Association at Walter Reed Army Medical, Navy Medical Center, and we sponsor half of the awards at BAMC, a couple of the awards at Darnell, and the awards in the MEDAC in Alaska. So if there's any questions, just let me know. Thank you.
So I'm going to talk about 2 things: regional directors and the ambassadors program. And the first slide tells you where you can find the duties for the regional directors. It's in the bylaws, and I sent you a set of the bylaws, so you had that as a read ahead. And it's rather spare in what it says the duties of the regional directors are. I think of this as an opportunity to do more than what the duties reflect. Because, here we are. Can I just change them myself, Nikki?
No, I have to do it, but I have to get the computer to cooperate with me, which is not
Okay,
at the moment.
all right.
There it goes.
All right, so on the menu at the top of the page, at the top of the website, you look under leadership and governance, and that's where the bylaws and standing rules are. Article 5, Section 7, on page 8, to be quite specific, is where you find the officer and regional director duties. And you can make this position as intense as you want or not. I had visions of handwriting notes to all of the members in Region 1, and I never got to that. I do need to find, or Lori, it'll be Lori because she has Region 1 now, but Europe is part of Region 1. So finding a way to connect with all of them in Europe can be quite a challenge. And let's see, Nancy, you were talking about finding Army nurses through newspapers and what have you. I receive a very local newspaper every day, and they put articles sometimes about active duty. And by darn, if one of the articles wasn't about a nurse corps nurse anesthetist by the name of Jamie Wilton, I looked into where he lived. He lives like a mile away from where I live, which is extremely exciting. And he has since joined ANCA. So I thought that was pretty successful. Nikki also sends to each regional director, it's an automatic thing. He will send to you nurse corps officers who have died, and it will come as a link, and it will link you usually to either an article in a local newspaper where they live, or it will link to the actual funeral home. If it's a funeral home, then or at least I have been, going to the funeral home website, and they have a place where you can write a condolence, and just writing a short condolence to the family and friends of colonel or lieutenant or whomever it is. And on behalf of the Army Nurse Corps Association, and if the individual was in for an entire career, I may put something in there like, it's upon their broad shoulders on which we stand and have progressed in the Army Nurse Corps. So that's just, you can also send a message to every member in your region through the email on the website. Okay, go ahead, Nikki. I'll go to the next one. Okay, the ANCA ambassador. So how did we get here? I'm sure you're aware that every state had a state or area representative. We looked at those and saw that they had been updated in 2007. So in 2016, the regional directors were going to review and update these guidelines. And then the idea of ambassadors came to the forefront. And once we dove into that, it seems like everybody has an ambassador. It's funny when you hear a word, you will, like, even without focusing on it, you will notice that that word pops up in other ways, either on social media or in written materials. So we took quite a bit of time, about 2 years, to look at what ambassadors of other organizations do. And really, we had to put a stopping point to that because I, for example, kept coming up with more and more and more information. And Nancy, it's ACCN, the no, Critical Care Nursing Association.
The AACN has been using that concept.
Yeah, they have
And the
ambassadors.
reserves using now too in the state.
Okay. So we embarked on creating a role and guidelines. So the ANCA ambassador is a member who is committed to ANCA and ideally resides near an Army medical unit, either active or reserved, with assigned ANs or a cohort of ANCA members reasonably close by to facilitate interaction. So let's go to the next slide. Great.
Okay.
So the ANCA ambassador roles and functions, they provide ANCA organizational continuity in a given area. So for example, Paula, you are in Region 3 and you have quite a lot of opportunities there. I'm rather envious because you've got Fort Bragg and Jackson and all the way down the rest of the coast there. And the ambassador can sustain an organizational presence in support of ANCA and the Army Nurse Corps to include reserve units. One time I drove over to Fort Dix and Faith was over there with a unit at the time. And that was a lot of fun. We got to do a lot of good discussion. Engaging ANCA members in activities, that's pretty loose, but whatever, like for example, when we have the spring luncheon, the Colonel Betty Antela spring luncheon at Fort Belvoir, inviting ANCA members, sending them emails so they know what's going on is one of the ways you can engage local members. We would like the ambassadors to get to know the senior leadership at their MTFs. That is not easy, I will tell you. I did phone calls to every installation in Region 1 to find out when they were having recognition of the Army Nurse Corps anniversary. And you need to get to know the secretaries. That's exactly who you need to get to know because they're the ones that know when that's going to happen. I only once or twice, maybe 3 times, actually spoke to the DCN or whomever the senior leader was at that unit. And then recruit. You know, the ambassadors are should be actively recruiting new members to the organization. Okay, Nikki, next slide. Thank you. So what I did here is I wanted to show you where all of the current ambassadors are. And you'll notice starting from the left, and all of these individuals are retired. Colonel Gar Yip and Colonel Stephanie Marshall are in Hawaii. Teresa Parsons is in Hawaii. And Gar and Stephanie attend AN activities in Hawaii. So I recruited them as ambassadors so that they would have materials to hand out to hopefully recruit some more. Colonel Jane Rutledge lives in California. She is a retired reserve officer. Lieutenant Colonel Joellen Ferguson lives in Missouri. Colonel Susan Bax lives in Kansas. Colonel Lenny Enzo lives in Texas. Let's see. Now I have your faces covering up the right side, but that's all right. I know what these are. So Colonel Iris West lives in New York. We need at least another ambassador in New York, preferably more north because of Fort Drum and West Point. I'm going to be an ambassador for Pennsylvania and New Jersey because I can go over to New Jersey. Roy and Mary Kay Powers. Roy lives in Maryland. Mary Kay lives in Virginia. And since that area is so replete with not only ANCA members, but activities between Walter Reed and Fort Belvoir and Fort Meade and etc., the two of them can pair up and decide who's going where and doing what. So those are our ambassadors now and where they are. There are none in Alaska. Okay, let's go to the next slide. So what are the available tools? We have a plethora now of documentation, brochures and such that we will give the ambassadors. And Kathy mailed to all the current ambassadors packages which have membership brochures, coins, pens. Everyone, all the ambassadors will receive a professional name tag like all of the folks on the board have. And Nikki will be giving them special access to specific pages. And there's other items as the ambassador program matures, and they indicate other things that they want. I have still, Kathy, that big box of note cards that were made with the fuchsia nurse on it, and I'm going to be sending those out to the ambassadors, and I think I have enough to send some to the new regional directors if they would like to have them.
Just a comment. This is a pretty new program, and it is helpful if we could find ambassadors who are currently in facilities, but they also travel a lot. When we started this, people were still being deployed a lot. So you have to sort of work on your using your email to members to see if they're interested in becoming an ambassador. And the other thing is every region has a big stand-up ANCA
banner.
The one they used at the general membership meeting.
Yes.
So whoever in your region was director before, they should have that banner. And so you need to probably try to find how to get that. The other thing is Donna has the Region 5 banner. Am I in Region 5? The Texas banner anyway.
No, you're in Region 4.
The Region 4 banner, but I also have an extra banner, so I can send that to Dawn if she wants it.
And the other thing that we talked about, rather than the big banner, is getting, Teresa brought this up, getting tabletop banners. Because if you're by yourself and you've got all of this to carry into the facility, I mean, my dear husband helps me with all of that, so I don't have to worry about it. But that can be a heavy load if you're trying to carry all that. And we did not identify a place to get a tabletop banner. That's one thing that's a outstanding item. The other thing for the new regional directors is that a report can be run of every member in your region, and it has their contact information on it. You can see, I mean, you may even see people that you know. That's why I said to you, Paula, that, you know, you'll see Art Wallace on your membership list. Well, you know, we know Art, so he may be, could be a really good ambassador for you. But Nikki can help you get those reports. I find them invaluable.
And also, Paula, we have a lot of reserve units in that area, and we have Bob Moore, who's our reserve component liaison. And so if you just kind of work through him, he can help identify some good candidates in your region that are close to the reserve medical units that are there to give a hand as well. Over.
Anybody else have a question for me? Well,
So
thank you very
I'm
much.
sorry, I have a, hi, Robin, this is Lori.
Oh, hi, Lori.
How are you?
Good.
Good, good. So this is just a general question. Do we have an updated list from the ANC office of the leadership at the different facilities with
No.
contact information?
No.
The latest we have is from 18.
Okay. So Dawn, you probably could have access to that now. that
I
you
probably have
on
access
active
to
duty.
that. Yeah.
Very good.
I will put that on my to-do list.
Excellent, thank you. That's really
Yep.
very helpful if we at least know who the person is and can get an email or address from them. You know, sometimes your email gets blocked though. I have found coming from a civilian, if they've never emailed you on your civilian email account, sometimes you go into their junk mail. So calling and then kind of getting a connection that way was helpful for me in the National Capital Region.
Yeah, that list is another jewel to have in your toolkit.
And that actually triggered me, Lori, because I know this summer we had a big change out of the reserve component leadership also with the chief, you know, AGR and all that stuff. So I'll also ping Bob to work on getting that updated list as well. So
Yes, exactly, because there's a big reserve unit here in New York, not too far from me. I think they're based out of Fort Hamilton or near there, right?
8th Med Brigade.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I don't.
And the MRSG, there's actually two.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Great.
Awesome.
Thank you, Dawn.
Thanks.
Appreciate
Yep.
it.
And I do want to make one more comment. Paula, Mary Kay Powers, myself, and did I say Rhonda? There's 4 of us who are from the same RAIN class, RAIN 1975. So who to us?
Okay.
Is that it?
Yeah.
Thanks, Nikki, for helping me.
Yes, ma'am. I'm learning.
Bye.
Okay. Are you going to give me a few minutes, Kathy?
Go ahead.
Just a few minutes. Just a few minutes.
You're entitled.
Our section.
I just want to let you know that Nikki and I are the administrators of the website, and so we can get into things that y'all can't, you know, if you need some things that you can't seem to find, you can let me know. I am essentially the office in San Antonio. I pick up the mail, and and that entitles picking it up paying the bills, taking in the new memberships and the renewals that come, taking those to the bank. I have to all returned mail with not good addresses. I send out emails to all those people to see if I can get a good new address. Doesn't usually work. But for every letter that comes back, or for every connection that comes back, we have to pay an additional 63 cents to the post office just to tell us they couldn't send the email or couldn't send the paper. As far as the phone calls go, we have two numbers. We have a 210 number and an 800 number, and those are answered by Da Vinci, who is our phone people. And they can, I get all of those messages that come in, and I either return the calls or whatever and deal with those, forward them to people that need them. Some go to CJ for history things and whoever needs them. So that's as far as that goes. As far as membership goes, all the membership comes through me. All members that join online, I have to go through those and then send them out their acceptance letters and their membership packet. As far as their renewals go, everybody gets email renewals 60 and 45 days before the renewal date. If they have not renewed by the first of the month that the renewal is due, I send them a paper renewal notice. And if I send out 25, maybe I get 5 back. I do an annual report every year as far as membership and what's new and what's going on. If you have any packages that you need to send to ANCA, I would prefer that you send them to me at my home address. If they go to the office where we pick up the mail, I have to pay $3 just to pick up anything you would send, like FedEx or anything that you would send. If you need supplies or anything, just shoot me an email and I can send you what you need. If you're going to do a big mailing, we have stamps.com. And our postage is 50 cents per first class letter rather than the 55. So if you were doing a big mailing, I could send you a sheet or two of stamps, however many you might need. We have a storage unit for all of the things that we took out of the office that we don't use. But if you need anything at all as far as support goes, just let me know. And just back to membership for a minute. We have about, as Nancy said, about 1,400 members. The odd years, we have a big renewal. About 950 people are due in the odd years. And in the even years, about 500. And so in the odd years, it used to be everybody had to renew the 30th of April, all members. But now when a member joins, we make their membership 2 years from the date they joined. It used to be just 2 years till the end of April. Anyway, the big number is in March and April of the odd years. And those are many of our older members who have been ANCA members for a long time. And so that's why there's still a big cluster of them there. We're trying to spread it out. And we're doing somewhat of a job. If the number is too big, sometimes if it's still 400 for March and April, we'll send it to have it done at a printing company. If it's less than 100, I'll just send them out from here. So any questions about the office, administration, phone numbers, mail? And like I said, anything you need, just email me and I'll get it to you. Okay. Oh, and I think Nancy said, we do have, if you want to use we have 10,000 free minutes of calling with our phone every month. So if you want to have a meeting, not a Zoom meeting, all you need to do is get the login numbers, and then you can meet for as long as you want with as many people as you want. So, okay, that's all for that. You'll see me later for finance. Okay.
Are we ready for Jan? Is that next? Am I reading this right?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. All right. Jan Harris.
Okay. All right, I'm Jan Harris. I am the chair of the Education Committee with the primary responsibility of overseeing the scholarship. So I served 33 years on active duty. I've already done one recall, retired out of Fort Detrick. I've been involved actually on the scholarship committee since 2000. So a long time. When I was in San Antonio at the center and school, one day General Dunlap came into my office and said, Jan, I have a job for you. So if any of you knew General Dunlap, she was not an easy person to say no to. So that's when I originally started serving on the scholarship committee. And then when Larry Moss retired as chair, then I took over as chair. I think it was in 2010. So I've been chair of the scholarship committee since that time. Most of what I'm going to say is actually in my annual report. As they mentioned earlier, all the board members and committee chairs do a report each year that then gets posted to the website that members have access to. So with the education fund, you're going to hear about finances in a little while. So there's actually two different accounts. And one of them is the education fund, and those dollars are earmarked specifically for educational activities and can't be used for other things. Prior to 2016, the primary way that the education dollars were spent were through the scholarship program. There were, I sent out an Excel spreadsheet that shows a history of where all the money has gone out of the education fund. And you will see that there were a couple times we did fund speakers for ROTC and that sort of thing. But the vast majority of the money was used for scholarships. In 2016, we received a large bequest from Lieutenant Colonel retired Isabel Bagan, about $300,000 that was earmarked specifically for education and went into the education fund. At that time, the board of directors discussed other educational activities that these dollars could be used for in addition to the scholarship fund. So the other activities that we now fund are evidence-based practice and research seed grants, the Speakers Bureau. We fund certifications as well as the Bagan Lectureship, which is done at the Uniformed Services University. This year's Bagan lecture, I mean, actually all of them have been excellent. I have seen all of them. And if you didn't see this year's, I would really encourage you. Nikki, it is posted on the website, right?
Yes. Mhm.
It is posted on the website. It was done by Dr. Brennan, and she talked about partners in precision health. And she's with the National Library of Medicine, and she really, really gave a stellar lecture. So if you haven't seen it, I would encourage you to do that. So I'm going to spend the rest of my time talking well, just as a summary, we have given a total of 261 scholarships for $736,570. The other educational activities total $54,435.50. And as I said, the Excel spreadsheet does outline exactly where all the dollars have been spent. So other people will talk about the other activities that I mentioned. So I'm going to spend the rest of my time talking about the scholarship fund. So every year when the budget is done, the board votes on how many scholarships can be awarded each year. For the last few years, we have been giving 15 scholarships. I do have a committee that I work with Marty Bell had been on the committee for a number of years and she came off this year. I did have an active duty representative, Captain Brian Dozel, but he came off as well. So if anybody knows of an active duty person that would be interested in participating, that would be greatly appreciated. So Karen Grace has been on the committee for quite a while. I do have two reserve members, retired reserve members, Colonel Betty Goldsby and actually Lieutenant Colonel Fred Dorfer. She's still in the reserves, right? Yeah, so I do have an active reserve individual. So if I could get an active duty person, that would be great. Colonel Kathleen Dunham has agreed she's going to come on the committee this next year. So I do like to make sure we have at least 3 individuals that review the packets each year for the scholarships. One of the things I did send out was the guidelines for 2021. So Don, we're going to have to see about getting those approved at some time. You know, if we can send out an email and do that electronically, because we would like to go ahead and get those posted to the website as soon as we can. So a few years back when we started with the research grants, Nikki worked to get an electronic submission process for the research grants. They tried that out on the research grants because they get a smaller number of those. And then the electronic website was modified so that we can do the submissions electronically, which definitely has helped on my workload, and it makes it easier when we come to doing the reviews and getting the information out to the members. Typically, we post the, once the board approves the guidelines, then we post them to the website. 31 March has been our deadline. This last year, we did have to extend the deadline a month because, as you know, March is when everything got shut down. So a lot of the schools were temporarily closed. So we extended the deadline for a month this last year. But that was the first time we've had to alter the deadline. I think that's about all I have. Anyone have any questions? So in talking with individuals, they want to know how much the workload is if they volunteer for the committee. For the committee members, the time that they're really involved, other than a few emails getting things set up ahead of time, is in a 2 to 3 weeks in the April timeframe when we review the applications. And this last year we had 30 some applications, and committee members spent about 25 hours reviewing those applications. So that's the workload for the committee members. Any questions? Right.
All right, thank you, Jan, I appreciate it. So next up is the research programs and awards with Kathy Gaylord.
Yeah.
And I'm Kathy Gaylord, and I'm the research committee chairperson. The research committee started in 2014, and it was the brainstorm of Colonel Carol Hubner. And so at the convention, we kind of got together for brainstorming. We moved forward to 2016. We developed the actual committee and had protocols for the seed grant and the award programs. By 2018, we had awards given, and at that convention, we had researchers giving the keynote speech and also a panel discussion. In 2020, Colonel Yackel, on 2018, I became the chairperson, taking it over from Carol. And in 2020, Colonel Ed Yackel assumed the responsibility for the seed grant program. And that's where we are now. We have 8 members of the committee. You can read those. These are our functions. There are 5 of them. And so I'll go through them. You can see those and I'll go through them. First is the evidence-based, the research program, award program, and we give it based on awards based on research or evidence-based practice. And we give 2 a year, one each, and recipients receive, you see, an award citation, an ANCA coin, and a crystal memento. And this is awards for their military practice. Based on things that they did. These are the awards for 2018, 19, and 20. You can read those. The 2018s were presented at the convention. 2019, we had to go to the duty station. So we used other members of the Army Nurse Corps Association to assist us with getting those to them. Okay. So the SEED grant program also is given for research or evidence-based practice. We give up to $3,500, and it is for novices to experienced investigators, graduate or doctoral students, or clinical nurses. So you can see there all the areas that we focus on for our SEED grants. In the 5-year history, we've given $35,534. And this year we had 100% awards. So we are looking forward to granting money for researchers who have good quality products. We have an ANCA doc group, doctoral prepared nurses, and they're the ones who review the applications for the grants. This slide shows you the money that we've given over the 5 years. Okay. This dissemination program, we decided that once they did their research, they needed some help getting their information disseminated. So we created, they can get up to $1,000 per request. Okay. And the next slide shows you what we gave the money for over the 5 years: publications, presentations, news coverage, anything related to research activities. Key thing that we like to do is the research poster session at the convention. And so this is open to all levels of nurses in the Army Nurse Corps. And so we showcase their work, and we have judges who are ANCA members. The connection, if you've noticed that there is a science corner, this was also from Carol Hubner's brainstorm. We have the scientists, another way for them to publish a brief synopsis of their studies, and anything that's current or focused, research focused, we may put into the science corner. So check us out. And then research questions. As the chairperson, I get questions about people who are doing research want to know if they can get access to our ANCA membership. They cannot have direct access, but they can ask for volunteers on our Facebook. And we also get many, many questions about previous Army Nurse Corps officers, and in collaboration with our historian, C.J. Moore, we answer those questions to the best of our knowledge. So that's our research committee.
Does anybody have any questions about research?
So next we have our recognition program. So basically, we have an awards committee, and we meet annually, and we have a couple awards. One's the Senior Leader Award, and then the other is the Military Nursing Practice Award. And previously, we just had it, kind of the way it was set up was, it was just basically geared towards the active component only. So this year, under Nancy's leadership, we incorporated an award for the reserve component as well as the National Guard. So the committee typically reviews the packets. I'm trying to think, I think June is when we usually try to have the names submitted. I think the deadline's usually around April or May, but it seems like every year we have to keep asking for an extension because we sometimes it's like pulling teeth to get the nomination packets from the chief of the office and that type of thing. So yeah, and then so there's like several of us that we use kind of the evaluation criteria to evaluate the packets, and then we kind of decide as a group, you know, with the weighing criteria, with the numbers and stuff, to submit the names. And we don't want people submitted more, or, you know, nominated more than once, so they can't have won the award in the past. So we intend again next year to also include the reserve component in the National Guard. So basically what ends up happening is there ends up being 6 awards per year now for that. So it's just a way to provide recognition and promote the visibility of ANCA. This year was kind of, we weren't able to present it the way we wanted to, because normally we try to have an ANCA member present when we present the awards. But with COVID and that type of thing, it hasn't occurred the way we wanted it to. So I'm not sure if we'll be back to in-person award presentations next year or not, but so that's the game plan. I think last year I'm trying to see if I had dates on that, but I think I didn't put the dates down. But yeah, we usually publicly announce them around June or July, I think is what we did this year. So, and then the other thing that we have is the special membership recognition, and you'll have to help me with this on Nancy. Is it over 90 and over? They have free membership.
Once you reach the age 90, they have the option to be a member for free for life.
Right. So that's just a kind of a special recognition program for being, you know, longevity and a member of, you know, the Army Nurse Corps at some point in their lives. Any questions on that? The next on that program is Karen to talk about convention membership and Speakers Bureau. And Karen, are you going to be keeping the newsletter? Since you're
unless you consider it a conflict of interest.
I don't, but if it begins to be too much of a workload, or it's probably definitely going to be too much of a workload when you take over as president in a couple of years. So I don't know if you want to start recruiting or right seat riding somebody to take over or help take over as the newsletter. You know, I want to start doing that. So the floor is yours.
Thank you. Well, if anybody wants any of these things I'm going to talk about over the next couple minutes, they just need to let me know if they would like to take that mission on. The first thing I'm going to talk about is the Speakers Bureau. Nikki, do you have the slides?
Yeah, I'm trying to get them to come up here.
Okay, appreciate that.
They're being bulky.
Oh dear. The Speakers Bureau, I'll just go start giving you some information. The Speakers Bureau was started in about 2017, and the goal is just to provide a resource for requests that come in, or marry up requests that come in with individuals who have volunteered to be part of the Speakers Bureau. A lot of requests that come in go directly to the president, past president, and or specific people. I usually do not have visibility of those, but if they come in through the Speakers Bureau, then I will reach out to approximately 26 of our volunteers and ask them if they are available to do the presentation. Next slide, please. If you look at this one, the 4th paragraph down, we do have a roster of speakers, active and retired Army Nurse Corps officers with various military and civilian experience. And so, what most of them have reported is clinical expertise, experience in academia, informatics, research, leadership positions, military history, to say the least. CJ gets a lot of requests as a speaker. And then there, as the Army Nurse Corps continues to age, we have a lot of people transitioning out of the military, and a lot of people have asked for discussions on that transition process and how to look for employment afterwards. Over the last several years, we've had waning participation in the program. As I said, most of our requests come in for specific people. We do have speakers who are available for regional and international events. The Army Nurse Corps Association has funded this process. I don't think we've used any funds so far to fund a speaker, but it is available. There is a Speakers Bureau request form on the web. And if you, Nikki, if you could forward to the next slide, I think we have a copy of that request form. Yes. And so we have quite a few people from outside of the Army Nurse Corps Association who have asked for speakers. People in the community, the Daughters of the American Revolution have contacted us. The people with the different community events have contacted us for speakers, and we try to accommodate them when that is possible. But the funds have initially, I think, were identified so that if one of our institutions wanted someone to come in, we would be able to fund them to travel to that site and help that institution. Because as we know, the budget has been cut by Department of Defense for travel and educational opportunities. Any questions on the Speakers Bureau? Okay, next slide. The connection, as you know, it's the Army Nurse Corps newsletter. Nikki was the passed the baton to me and did a phenomenal job, and is still a great resource for me. It is published quarterly, March, June, September, and December. So right now I'm getting ready to finalize the December issue to get it to the printer. The last one, it took almost 4 weeks to get from mailing to delivery to your homes. And so I'm trying to get it out as early in November as possible to get it there before the Christmas rush. The newsletter does include messages from the president of ANCA and also the chief of the Army Nurse Corps. I do have help from Kathy Carpenter, who consolidates the regional news that is submitted, and that is greatly appreciated. Kathy Gaylor coordinates the Science Corner. Claudia Bartz is phenomenal in submitting articles for the literature and art section. As you know, CJ provides the historical article. And then Kathy Swafford and Nikki McCaslin, yes, they have a role in the newsletter. They help me with the milestones, the deaths, the new addresses, significant events that are happening among members of the Army Nurse Corps Association. Gary Graham does submit, I think she's done it at least 3 times over the last year, a legislative update. And then I will try to go out and look for nurses in the news and or provide any announcements that are submitted to me. All members can access the newsletter on the ANCA webpage, but we are mailing it to members as right now as requested. It used to be default to anybody would get the newsletter, but now we are trying to save a few dollars and only send it to those members who want request it because of the cost. And so over the last year, we've decreased sending it to about 70 people because they have volunteered to access it on the webpage. As Kathy mentioned, if a person moves and they don't update their address, it costs more to have it returned to us than it does to send it out to them. So any questions? I think I only have the one on the newsletter. Any questions on the newsletter?
No, Karen, this is Kathy. Let me just say that for the last 2 years, the default has been to get it online. But anybody before that, they still have to put in that they want to get it in paper. But now the default is online, and if they want it, they have to go in and uncheck that. So, but that's only been for the last 2 years or so. So,
But and when anybody renews, does it automatically default to that?
no,
Is there some way we could do that? And include that in our message?
It would
You're
have to be
killing
done
me.
manually.
you're killing me.
Well,
Are you volunteering to do that, Karen?
You're killing me. I don't know. You know, some people really enjoy to get it, and if you know they like to, they want it, and so I don't know. You put enough notices in the connection to encourage them to get it online, but I don't see that that's changed very often.
as I said, the most requests we had or follow-up was about 30 at one time and then 20 another time. So, okay. All right. Anything else from anybody? Any questions? Okay, next slide. This is just an update on the 2022 convention. It was rescheduled to 13 to 16 October, 13 being the Thursday before, which allows for the local tours. And right now we are planning pretty much the same schedule that we had forecasted for the 2020 convention. Christine Bevins is the event planner and I co-chair, or I guess I'm the chair. I don't know that I'm the co-chair, but the chair it. It is a 3-day convention and it includes a general membership meeting. It includes, this time we had 7 guest speakers, 6 CEUs or contact hours. There will be a gala. I said the gala is Saturday night, right? Yes.
Yes.
And then the agenda for Friday through Sunday, there's a draft agenda that follows to give you an idea what we had forecasted. Just an FYI for the new members, we do have a BOD meeting after the convention. It's usually the Monday and Tuesday after the convention with departure either Tuesday afternoon or Wednesday. And then we are looking, this is most important, for a chair for the 2024 convention, which is scheduled for Nashville, Tennessee. So I'd much rather find a replacement for the chair of the convention right now than the newsletter. So next slide. Okay, and there's the draft of the 2020 convention for you to review. I know it's a little bit small, but I think Nikki sent this out to you. So are there any questions about the convention? Okay. If there are no other questions for me or comments, and if you know anybody in your region in the Army Nurse Corps Association that wants to take over as chair of the convention, who wants to be the editor of the newspaper or be the coordinator for the Speakers Bureau, please feel free to contact me. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Karen. I appreciate that. Oh, you look much better than the other day.
I feel much better than the other day, believe me. The way the agenda for tonight's session lists it, social media is really not a separate entity from communications in general. And there is a communications committee of which the social media committee is one. And I'm that one. However, there are a number of people that help in many, many ways. And hopefully some of you will, as we progress through this tonight, will see roles for yourselves. I would like to specifically recognize CJ Moore. CJ is a prolific provider of historical bits that are among the most popular posts that we put on our social media sites. Okay, Nikki, we can go ahead to the first slide there. So as I mentioned, our goals of ANCA's social media platforms are to support the strategic plan, which has obviously many communication components to it, to encourage membership growth and participation, and enhancing communication within our organization, which is very fitting when we consider that our motto, preserving the past, capitalizing on the present, and embracing the future, melds very nicely into opportunities for social media content. And then lastly, we would like to do more in terms of recognizing significant contributions and activities of active and retired Army nurses from all of the components. And we have a long way to go in that area. What I like to compare this challenge to is that of being an editor. And Karen can attest to this with regard to the connection. There is so much actual and potential material out there that an editor or an administrator or whatever title you want to give it can't possibly have knowledge or awareness of without some input from others. And with our organizational structure now being changed or augmented by the role of the ambassadors and also the regional directors, my hope is that we can get to a point where we're having some periodic input from those folks with regard to what's happening in their regions or areas. Next slide, Nikki. We are currently utilizing 4 social media platforms, 3 if we lump Facebook into one. The first and the most well-known probably is our Facebook organizational site, which is the public face of ANCA on social media. The links on this slide are active links. So in the copies that you received from Nikki earlier today, you can just click on those and it'll take you to those sites as appropriate. The second is our group site, which is our members only Facebook communications platform. Posts are submitted by leadership and members and then published by administrators in most cases. However, any member of the group can post to the site. There is a requirement to make a request and be approved as a member. That can be done online at the site and requires simply answering, I think it's 4 or 5 questions that pertain to, they're basically questions designed to ensure that the members meet the membership criteria for ANCA. 3, Nikki, is that what you're
Right.
And it's amazing how many requests we get for membership on that site who don't choose to respond to any of those questions. So we either have a great potential for fraudulent activity on our site, or more likely we just have people that don't read the instructions and to proceed. Next slide. Instagram and Twitter are both sites that we have accounts on, but both are very rarely utilized at the current time. they were both established this year in hopes of reaching out to our younger and more social media adept members who are using Instagram and Twitter more commonly than they're using Facebook anymore. And even those two are being eclipsed now by others such as Twitch and others that I probably don't even know about at this point in time. The unique characteristics of these two, Instagram is primarily a photo and video sharing application. And it's also primarily phone-based or tablet-based. So those who are used to using a computer for their social media activities would find it foreign. You can do it, but it's awkward. Twitter is not something that we can publish to as an organization unless we use a model somewhat like the White House, where tweets are provided to the administrator of the current Twitter account and then tweeted on behalf of the organization by that administrator. You have to have your own Twitter account in order to utilize Twitter. And if you do that, you do so by following the the ANCA Twitter account. I'm sorry. As I said, it's not well utilized, and I certainly would invite anyone who is currently familiar with and who utilizes either of these two platforms who would like to join our social media efforts to let me know, and we'll provide all kinds of support to you in exchange for your time and expertise. Nikki, next slide. So that brings us to the key message that I'd like to leave you with tonight, and that is that has ANCA members, and specifically has members who now possess roles that they at least agreed to perform at one time, can help us with, and that is to submit news, events, awards, recognitions, virtually anything that occurs within your committee or region, sort of as reporters, if you will, to the editor. Engage in social media discourse by reading and following our posts on our existing Facebook accounts. That engages conversation and communications among our members. Sharing those posts with fellow members and friends as appropriate expands the reach of those posts. And volunteering to serve on our committees. Again, a key thing. I would put an asterisk by that one if I got a chance to redo the slides. And the next slide, I think that might be the last one. Oh, there is one post here, how to submit material to us for posting. If you choose not to directly post to Facebook or any of the other sites, you can simply email them to socialmedia@eanca.org. People do it in all kinds of formats. Probably the easiest for most people is to just email it directly. However, some people choose to embed their post in a Word document or a PowerPoint slide or some other format, and it really doesn't matter. The one format that is a little more awkward for us to work with on this end is PDF files, simply because we have less flexibility to take them apart and reconnect them into the right boxes on the social media platform. And that concludes the comments that I chose to make tonight. If there is any questions or discussions, this would be the time to do that. If not, I am going to leave you at least temporarily. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Steve. And just one of the things with social media is the more you can present, the more the members will see us as an active organization. So even if you think it's not that big a deal, please, feel free to submit it so we can show how active our organization is.
I would add to that that it is absolutely amazing the kind of feedback we receive, either indirectly from members or in public posts in follow-up by people who read something about someone they know or have worked with or for in the past. They probably engage people better than any other type of post we can put there. I agree. Thank you.
Thanks, Steve. All right. If you don't have any questions now, and if any pop up, you can also just email Steve at that email address as well. So the next item on the agenda is the Legacy Giving Program. So one of the initiatives that Nancy had also was that one of the things our organization can't do is just rely on the membership fees that we pay every couple years. So one of the things that we've done is expanded our, I guess, awareness of ways that we can donate and contribute to ANCA. And so one of the things, or one of the intents of ANCA was to basically and develop initiative, develop, maintain, and sustain initiatives that benefit Army nursing. So it isn't just for the organization itself. It's Army nursing as well. So there was, I think it was a couple of years ago, ANCA had actually funded, I think it was some type of anesthesia machine that they wanted to use. They wanted to research to see if it was going to be beneficial in a war zone. And on the active component side, they were having more of a bureaucratic red tape to get that funded through the active component side. So they had actually presented it to ANCA, and through a board member vote, ANCA had agreed to fund it. And that's just one of the ways that ANCA does help benefit, Army nursing overall, in addition to the scholarship programs that Jan Harris talked about, the research and evidence-based practice, seed grants that they have, that type of thing. But again, those all need additional funding. We can't fund them alone with just the membership fees. So on the website, there is a link if you want to, at some point in time, look at the Legacy Giving Program. And I think, Kathy, do you still have the handouts on the Legacy Giving Program? So if you ever...
Yeah, I sent them to the ambassador.
Awesome. So, feel free to hand those out when we do have, in-person events as well. And kind of, Nancy kind of had this expectation as when she was president, and I do too, that if you are going to be a board member, to make a financial donation to the organization annually. I mean, it doesn't have to be much, but it just, if we're going to ask our members to donate money, that we should, as board members, make some type of donation as well. And then what we will do at the 2022 convention now is we'll actually have on our name tags, a ribbon that identifies that we were donors to the Legacy Giving Program. So again, we want to, walk the walk and talk, talk the talk and walk the walk type thing. So But there are different means. You know, you can donate part of your estate. There's other ways that you can donate to the Legacy Giving Program as well. And I think, Kathy, you can talk a little bit more about, I don't understand all the nuances with regards to that, but some, you know, employers have matching gift programs. And you can take some of your rollover when it's time for you to take mandatory distributions from your IRA. You can designate those to, you know, ANCA as well. Again, so there's more information on that website, on our website. And ultimately, you know, like Dr. Vagan did, you can put them in the, or Lieutenant Colonel Vagan, she put them in her will, and you can, you know, designate that as well. Any questions on that? Okay. And then next on the agenda, we have the protection of member contact information. So one of the things that we pride ourselves in as an organization is we won't sell our member lists, or their email addresses, their contact information to any, you know, outside entities. As a member, you do have access to the other members' information if they choose to publicize it. When you register, you can determine if you want that information made public to other members. So other members, if they have an active membership, can go ahead and access that information, but it's not made available to other members, even if somebody, or other entities outside ANCA. So even if somebody calls or requests that information, we do not release that to them for any types of, you know, any other purposes. Any questions? All right. We'll be followed by John and Kathy with a review of finances and financial policies.
For those who don't know me, I'm retired Colonel John Scherner, living in San Antonio for the last 30 years or so. I retired in 1997 out of BAMC. I was a nurse anesthetist. And then I retired in 2012 from the VA. And I've been the chair of the Finance and Budget Committee for about 5.5, 6 years now. And what I'd like to do is, first of all, talk about our investment policy. And Kathy, chime in anytime that you would like, please, to correct me if I say something that's not correct. Essentially, first of all, our dues pay for our organizational requirements, our organizational budget. So our membership is critical. And when we drop in membership, we lose monies that support the organization in their needs, the structure of the organization. Secondly, our organizational philosophy has always been, since I've been with ANCA as a member, and then as a regional director, and then as the chair of the Finance and Budget Committee, is that we don't spend the principal, we just spend our interest. And so far, we've done a fairly good job of doing that, so that we always have a substantial amount of money. Over the last years, we've gotten a little bit more or less thrifty in our approach to spending the money that we have. It was decided about 2 or 3 years ago that we probably, the intent of the monies that were given to us for education or whatever, we weren't doing enough in that realm. So we started doing other things, research, speakers bureau, and those types of things that will help spend some of that money that we have. Currently, we're doing very well. Kathy can address it more specifically, but we're financially sound from the standpoint of our organization and its finances. Talked about the Legacy Gift Program. In July of 2018, Nancy requested that we start a legacy program, and that it would be one of the duties of the Finance and Budget Committee is to oversee that. So we developed some guidelines to follow in reference to the Legacy Gift, the Army Nurse Corps Association. And first of all, anything less than $500 doesn't really have to go through the legacy to the Finance and Budget Committee for approval. Anything over $500, and that was just an arbitrary number. It may change as time goes on. Once a legacy gift is the board of directors has been notified of a legacy gift, the board of directors will forward to the finance and budget committee. We will take a look at it, and according to the guidelines that in the legacy program that is on the website, we will make a decision to determine if that indeed is an appropriate legacy gift. If there are any questions, we, for example, if somebody decides to leave stocks for us, we would contact Edward Jones and Vaughn at Edward Jones, who has our portfolio of investments, to see what's the best approach to that legacy gift. Should we divest ourselves of those stocks? Should we keep it in an active stock portfolio? So those types of questions, we would go to somebody who has expertise in that particular area. Once the board or once the finance and budget committee members make a decision, it's forward to the board of directors for their approval or disapproval. And then we contact the individual who, or the executor who notified us of the legacy gift that we accepted or not accepted, and for the reasons that we do or do not accept it. So that's essentially it. I'm remiss and just want to mention who the other members of the Finance and Budget Committee, Kathy and then Jennifer Bedek, are members, but they're members because of the treasury and the assistant treasury. They're not voting members of the committee per se. I'm the chair. Colonel Donna Wright has also been a member for about 5 or 6 years. Lieutenant Colonel Sue Anderson is a member, and Lieutenant Colonel Jenny Lester is another member, and also Colonel Charlie Reddy is a member also. And we normally are the duties of the Finance and Budget Committee meeting. We're only supposed to meet once a year, but we meet twice a year in the spring to review any changes in the budget that was approved earlier on. And then towards the end of the year, before the board of directors meeting, before the convention, to go over the budget again to see if there's any changes or anything that needs to be shifted from one area to another. And so we have 2 meetings a year. This year we had a kind of an email meeting because of the COVID-19. Copies of the budget were sent to the members for their comments and review. And we'll do that again probably in another month or so. I just received the 2021 and 22 budget from Kathy, so we'll review that and give our comments. So that's essentially it. Kathy, did I forget anything or anything that you need to add?
No, as far as that goes, as John said, we try to do the budget for 2 years. This year and next year are particularly hard. We spend a good part of our budget on our board meeting. If we meet on Zoom, there's $12,000 or $13,000 we won't spend. But if we meet in person, for the annual board meeting, we meet in person, usually in San Antonio. I pay for your airfare from wherever you come, and 2 nights, and we take care of all of your meals. In the even year, the year of the convention, we usually have the board meeting after the convention. We don't pay for your airfare because you will be going to the convention anyway, but we do pay for the last 2 nights of the hotel for your to stay on for 2 more nights for the board meeting. And like I said, John said, and we have tried in the past, it used to be that they would only spend in the scholarships the interest that we made. Since we have the Began endowment, there's a bigger fund there, and we've decided to spend more on scholarships. Also, we cannot just spend the interest we make because we don't make very much interest these days. As you all know, if you have anything to do with money, if you can get a 1% CD, good luck. So we don't So we are taking money out of our scholarship fund is going down, but it doesn't go down very much. I just got the Edward Jones for this past month. And a year ago, well, our total portfolio right now is $1,699,000. And for our scholarship fund, we have $1,026,000, and last year we had $1,070,000. So we spent the money for scholarships and grants. We spent about $60,000 this year for education. And so we weren't able, so some of that has come out of the education money. Our corporate account, our operating fund, is at 673, and last year it was at 665. So we're a little bit ahead there. The thing with the operating fund is that indeed gets interest, and it is there to help us operate. If our dues do not meet our expenses, then money comes out of the operating fund so that we can operate. Last year, I think I had to take $30,000 out just to make ends meet, but we're doing okay this year. I don't think I've taken any out this year. As far as finance, we have two checking accounts. We have our everyday checking account. Both of them are at Bank of America. Both of them get no interest. One of them is the convention account, and that is specifically for convention monies. Our conventions need to be self-supporting. And the reason we have an account is just kind of a cushion if for some reason disaster strikes. We have about $35,000 in our convention account. But basically, we should only spend for the convention what we take in. And so therefore, rates and everything is geared towards that. Like I said, we are a tax exempt 91C19 organization, which is a veterans organization. We do not have the same benefits as a 91C3, which like we couldn't get a Amazon Smile account because you have to be a 91C3 to get that. A 19 wouldn't do it, but we are tax exempt. We do have a tax exempt number. If you need to purchase things or services, let me know and you can get a tax exempt certificate for that. I said the budget is every 2 years. Jan pretty much talked about scholarships. Like I said, we spend about $60,000 a year out of the scholarship fund. We get donations usually every year. The Army Women's Foundation gives us $1,000 and we give them $1,000. So it's kind of evens it out. We do not generally give donations to other nonprofit organizations. So we are giving money for the Daisy Awards, which is a nursing award in specific hospitals. We're sponsoring, I think, Brooke and Alaska. I think at Brooke and Alaska, those things. As far as reimbursement goes, there is a reimbursement page on, if you go, when Nikki talks about the web page, on the officers page of the website, there is a reimbursement form that we will pay for your travel, your food, and your expenses that you have that are related to ANCA. We generally don't pay for mileage. And if you're going to spend money, it really needs to be approved before you spend it. You need to talk to the board before you spend money, and then it comes to me, and then I write a check and reimburse you for your expenses. And let me just say about airfare, if you come to meetings or go someplace, usually you are reimbursed your airfare at the lowest rate that is generally available. If you fly from here to Baltimore and back, just say it's $400, just say on Southwest. That's about how much money you're going to get, give or take what you spend for your ticket. If you wait until the last minute to buy your ticket and you spend $1,200, I'm not paying you $1,200 for your airline ticket. If you fly first class, I'm not paying you first class. You are generally reimbursed at the reasonable lowest rate that I can find. So just so you're aware of that. And so when you send in a voucher, you may ask for so much money that might not be what you get, but those are things that, you know, I would get back with you about. Reimbursed budget report, budgets. I make an annual financial report at the end of the year. And I list out where we spend our money, how much we spend on, and it's all for phone, all of our expenses and how much we spend. And we generally spend probably about $30,000. That excludes travel and meetings, depending on what we have to do with the internet. I work from home, so we got rid of our office expense. We used to have to pay $800 a month for an office that wasn't being used. So we moved out of the office 2 years ago into my office at home. So I think that we are really trying to make our expenses as far as the operating the association as small as we can. One of my biggest expenses is once a year I have to buy ink toner for the printer, and that costs about $700, and that's about the biggest single expense, other, you know, for office supplies and anything like that. But if you have any questions about money or how we spend it or where we spend it or what you can spend, just let me know, ask me. Anything else? Any questions? Okay.
Great, thanks Kathy, I appreciate it. And then next up is Nikki.
I'm going to try to make mine as short as possible here since we're running way over. But I think that's going to be doable because I sent you all a copy of this magnum opus that I put together called ANCA website and OneDrive guide for ANCA officers, ANCA officers. I've been piecing that together for some time, and I've pretty much got it where it covers most of the things you need to know if you're an officer and are using the website in that status as opposed to just as a member. I'll show you a few things here while we're together as an illustration. Although I put pictures and drawn arrows and tried to make it as much as possible, a stand on itself, or I guess better share my screen first, a document so that you can look things up there and use it on the fly. Here we go. Elizabeth Crabb is our stand-in officer when I want to test things on the website. And when I signed on as Elizabeth today, I noticed there's a couple of icons missing here, which I haven't seen. I'll have to check on that. But the new thing that you'll see if you're an officer is this tab on the website, which is called ANCA Admin, and it's an abbreviated version of what the admins, Kathy and I, can see, and it doesn't have all the housekeeping stuff on it, but it has some important things that will help you in your job as an officer. We've got statistics, which is pretty much self-explanatory. It's a quick listing of all the membership statistics that are easily obtainable. And you can see, for example, we're down to 12 World War II members, only one of which is indicated that they've deployed. Deployed is pretty shaky because that's just mainly new people who have signed on since we established the category of deployed. All of our old timers, many of them have not gone back to the website and indicated whether they were or not. And that's true of all these data. They're all supplied by the members, and it's dependent on how often they go in and look at them. I made a change in the website just recently and put up at the top here that the members record is on this same page. It's when they first log in. You just have to click here and it will take you down to, well, you brought me right back, take you down to the section that has your membership data in it, so you can check it while you're here. We also have this section up here that there are several fields that we've indicated if they're not filled out, the member gets this notice and it alerts them to please go and fill in whatever it is. In this case, the test officer has not filled in clinical specialty. But back to the ANCA admin tab, the most important two things are officers page, which was just referred to several times by people. It's a place where you put a whole bunch of things that are helpful or necessary for officers, such as forms and documents. The reimbursement form that Kathy mentioned is here. We have a copy of the logo if you want to put it on something, and all the promotional documents that we came up with a year or two ago. One thing about newsletter, Karen mentioned our contribution to the ANC newsletter. We were off the list for it for several years when it was discontinued. And then we got back on. In fact, we got a generous whole page in the newsletter when they came back from once General Horojo decided to resume it. But when was it, 2015, it was made official use only. And we kept getting it for about almost a year and a half until someone noticed that it was official use only and we shouldn't be getting it, and then they stopped it. But now we have it back on the agreement that we'll keep it close hold, board members only. So we put a angry looking cover sheet on it and made sure that people understand that we can read it, but we aren't supposed to release it. The problem is, of course, it has people's personal information in it. That's why it was FOUO. There are all kinds of other things here. This is due to be reorganized. I noticed it's getting kind of long and unorganized. So I want to try to bring that before the board pretty soon, and we'll see if there are things we need to add, things that are obsolete and can be removed, and get it a little more useful. But back up here, the next thing is the reports page. This is the place where you can get information out of the database in various formats. Most of these categories of filters and status are self-explanatory. The one thing I point out is the defaults. If you don't check anything else, you get active members in all status. But you can do any of these filters, any of these additions in member type, any of these additions in status type that you want. However, with filters, it's only one of these that you can check, either region, or state, or postal code. If you try to check more than one, it gets confused, and I can't guarantee you what you're going to get. But as long as you stick to either a state or the postal code works like this, it gives several examples of postal codes, and if you start typing your own or the one that you want to center your search on, mine is 78202, it'll jump down to it, and then you can pick a radius around that. If I want 30 miles around downtown San Antonio, it will give me all the members that meet the other criteria that are in that radius. It's very handy for local things and events like that. Let me use a small state, Arkansas, as the example of how we do other kinds of searches. The formats are three: either a roster listing, which was referred to earlier, they'll just give you the roster kind of information for whatever group it is you selected. CSV or comma S values, or separated values, is the format that goes into a spreadsheet. That's the most easiest way to get further details if you have any expertise in spreadsheets at all. But the most common use for most officers, I think, is probably email. Email is not really a report. It's just that you can sort the things in the ways that we've indicated there to get the group of emails that you want to send. You click the Run button, and the next thing that comes up is the way to prepare your email. You put in the subject, you put in who you want the reply to go to. The default is mail@anca.org, and that determines who gets that email. If someone just hits reply, who gets that reply? As long as it's mail@anca.org, Kathy gets the reply, and then she has to figure out what to do with it. So the way you need to do it is look at who you want it to go back to. If you're a region director, and what did we say, Arkansas, that's region 3, you would select region 3 for it to go back to. And that way, if you're asking people questions, the answers will come back to you. You can include attachments if you want to. Just click that, and that works the usual way. And then you compose your message down here. One caveat, you can use various kinds of formatting of bold, italic, and indenting, and here's a table that you can put in. But the easiest way to do this, and the safest, is to use this little button right here and do your message in Word, the way you want it, with the fonts you wanted and spacing and whatever, and then paste it in from Word. That accomplishes 2 things. It gives you more flexibility about what you can the ways you can format it, and it also is a safety valve in case things fail. You still have that Word document and can come back and start over and just paste it in again. You don't have to type it in this square again from scratch. Once you've got all that done, well, I guess I'm going to put something in here. Go to test RS, that's close enough. And we'll get test 2. And now we can go to next. It takes you several seconds usually to, uh-oh, we don't have any members in Arkansas. Oh dear, I picked a bad example. What would happen at this point, though, rather than going back and doing this again, is you have a list down here, which is all the people who meet the criteria that you selected. And you check this box here to pick them all. What that does is highlight all that list of names. Usually it's, a couple of hundred at least. And any that you see on there that you don't want to send it to, you can click those names and unhighlight them, and that takes them off the list of who are going to receive the email. Once you click this, this changes to the number of people that are on the list to be sent. If it's 100 people, it's going to say 100. And if you unhighlighted some, those will be deleted. And once you have that all set the way it's supposed to be, you hit not cancel, but send, and it will send all those emails. And normally the person who's sending the email gets a confirmation email back to themselves. And like I say, whoever is indicated as the reply to is the person who's going to get any more than the people just hit reply. You can double check that or make that double safe by putting the email that you want replies to go to inside the email itself. But if they just hit reply, it goes back to whoever's in this box here. So running low on time, let me see if there's anything else I need to tie you up to talk about. We have the news page here. Karen talked about the submit news item. Not many people use that, I've noticed, but there is an option to fill out a form here and send it. We have the current connection, which you're probably familiar with, but you may not be familiar with the archive. We have every connection that's been published all the way back to 1976. These 76 and 77 weren't really connections. They were just letters sent to all the ladies that were members at that point. But this is useful for looking back and saying, why did we do something that happened in, the end of 07? The other thing that's been mentioned was leadership and governance, which has the bylaws and strategic plans. It also has minutes and officers' reports that Jan mentioned. We have all the reports here from the current meeting. This is the 2020 annual board meeting, which was not really a meeting, I don't think, but what we really had was this video of the annual membership meeting. That is a first. We never had a video of a membership meeting on the this page before, but I suspect we'll see some in the future. The other aspect of this page is that it has an archive also. If you go to it, you have all of the minutes and reports that have been turned in by meetings back to 2002. So there too, we can look at our history and figure out things and look back to see how they did it back when fairly easily. And I maintain this regularly on the back on the current page. We're up to September for the monthly board meeting. I put them on there when they're approved in the next meeting. So in the meeting that's coming up next week, we will approve the October ones and they'll go on here. So this is fairly well kept. Of course, we do have to have the reports come in to go on the page. Mailboxes. You'll notice on the very last page of the handout that I gave you, the guide, I have a list of all the eanca.org mailboxes. I think all of us who are on this call have an eANCA email address. If there should be a need for a special one, we can do that very easily. What these mailboxes do is simply forward from the mailbox address that's shown here to your own personal email address. You can't send from it, unfortunately. We probably need to see if that's become feasible. It's never been feasible in the past because of the cost of extra mailboxes for us, but there may be ways to work on that. It's probably worth taking another look. But at present, these are basically just forwarders. The advantage of them is they're free, so I can do as many as we want, but the disadvantage is you cannot send from them. You can only receive from them. They have the advantage of keeping your personal email address private if you're putting it on public stuff or even to members that you don't necessarily want them having your email address. But the disadvantage is then when you have to reply, there they have your email address. The other advantage is that if it gets covered in spam, if it starts being overloaded, I simply turn it off and change it to something else. So you can't do that with your own personal email address very well. The other aspect of my area here is OneDrive, our cloud storage account. It comes with the same package that gets us those mailboxes. And I believe the instructions in the handout are fairly up to date, although I think Microsoft has changed some of the particulars about how you connect. Basically, you can have one connected to your own website, to your own computer, or you can simply use it by going to a website on the web and going through there. So I urge you to use it because I think it's important for us to have a centralized location where we store documents that are pertinent to ANCA, rather than being in all these individual people's personal computers. And when they move on, when they leave office, they're gone. And that we've done that for years and years, but now we're finally getting that under control. And I want to emphasize the importance of trying to keep at least copies in things that are relevant to yourself, your successors, to history, and keep those in the OneDrive account. And the instructions, as I say, are fairly clear, but I will be publishing an update of this document because I think Microsoft has changed some things to some extent. I won't tie you up any further, but if you have questions at this point, I'll be happy to answer them.
Nikki, I want to thank you for giving me the nuts and bolts I need to do my job.
Good.
Thank
Don't
you.
hesitate to call me or email me
Okay.
because I'm available to help sort out some of this stuff. You can't write it all down.
Thank you. I'm sure I will. I'm not the most computer savvy person on the board. I'm
All
sure.
right.
Probably the least computer savvy.
Well, I don't know. You have some contestants, I think.
You'll learn. You'll learn. Believe me.
Yes, I'm sure I will. I'm looking forward to it. Thank you.
Thank you, Nikki.
Awesome.
Anybody else? Well, sorry you just went over a little bit, but it was some good information. So without further ado, we will sign off.
Okay.
Thank you, everyone, for your time.
Bye. Till next time.
Thanks, everybody.